I'm David from Breasy, where we've helped over 150 maintenance pros add up to $100,000 to their bottom line easier than ever. I'm going behind the scenes to show you how. Let's get into it. Let's start with some math that most contractors never do. If a technician spends 2 hours per day on non-billable activities, things like creating estimates, chasing payments, coordinating schedules, that's 10 hours per week. Over the course of a year, 520 hours are wasted. And at a conservative billable rate of $75 per hour, that's leaving $39,000 on the table per person every year. Now, multiply that across your team and it really starts to hurt. But here's what makes it worse. Research shows that 82% of contractors don't have an effective time system. That leads to 51% of their workday going to low-value activities. You're not just losing the direct revenue, you're creating a culture where your best people spend half of their day frustrated, doing work that doesn't matter and doesn't actually use their skills. Now, I've watched contractors lose their top performers because of this. Not because of pay, not because of another company, but because they were tired of feeling like glorified secretaries. Where the time actually goes. Most contractors underestimate how much time they're burning on 3 specific activities. First, quoting. For straightforward jobs, you might think it's quick, but when you factor in the site visit, measurements, price calculations, material sourcing, creating the actual document, and following up, that's anywhere from 1 to 4 hours per quote. And if your close rate is less than 50%, you're spending serious time on estimates that never convert. Second, invoicing and collections. The maintenance industry has some of the worst payment timelines of any sector. The average contractor waits up to 83 days to collect on an invoice, and that's not a typo. Nearly 3 months. Why? Because they're sending paper invoices that get lost, following up via email, an email that gets ignored, and then making awkward phone calls that feel like begging for a job well done. The whole process is manual, uncomfortable, and extraordinarily time-consuming. Third, coordination and communication. You're texting your crew about tomorrow's schedule. You're calling to confirm appointments. You're dealing with supply deliveries, and every interaction feels small, but they add up to hours every single day. And then here's the pattern. Every single one of these activities is keeping you from something that actually is generating revenue, doing the work that makes you money. Here's what changes when you automate the right things. And I need to be clear about something. Automation isn't removing the human element from your business. It's about removing the human element from tasks that don't require it so you can focus the human element on what matters. Your customer doesn't need another human to send them an invoice. They need that human to solve their problem on site. Your crew doesn't need a human to call them to tell them the schedule. What they do need is a human leading them when they hit a complex situation in the field. And let me walk you through what this actually looks like. So let's say a lead comes in at 11 p.m. An automated system will capture it, confirm receipt with the customer in minutes, and even though you're not awake, you're still responsive. And this is a market where 78% of customers expect a response within an hour. You just won the speed game. That same quote gets approved, and it's automatically converted into a scheduled job. Your crew gets notified. The customer gets a confirmation. Materials get flagged for ordering. You just touched nothing, and everything's already in process. When that job completes and the tech marks it done, an invoice is automatically generated, pulling from that approved quote with any change orders that happened on the job, and ultimately creates the document that goes straight to the customer with a link to pay online. The studies show this gets you paid up to twice as fast as paper or invoicing. So here's what just happened. You went from inquiry to payment without a single admin task. Your team spent their time on the job site getting the job done. That's it. And contractors who make this shift report saving 7 hours per week. That's 7 real hours that can be transferred to something that is generating revenue, more jobs, better jobs, strategic work on your business instead of just spending time in it. You might be thinking this sounds good, but it's way too complicated to implement, and that's super fair. It's a lot of work. We've spent a ton of time on it at Breasy. Here's the approach that works. It's worked for us, and we've seen other people do it. And the approach is that you don't do everything at once. You start with your biggest pain point, prove the concept, and then move from there. For most people, it's payment connections. If you're currently waiting 60 to 90 days to get paid, that's your starting point. Set up some payment processing online, add a payment link to your invoices, and watch what happens. You'll see immediate results: faster payments, less time chasing money, more predictable cash flow. That success proves that automation has some power, and then it's time for an obvious next step to continue. And that next step is usually the quote to job workflow. Stop recreating the same information in 3 different places: the work order, the quote, and the job. When a quote is approved, it should become the job record automatically. When the job is done, that should become the invoice automatically. This eliminates any redundancy in data entry that eats up hours every week, and also opens you up for possible miscommunication. And speaking of communication, that's the final piece: customer communication. Key automated reminders like appointments, status updates, follow-up requests, those don't need your personal touch. They need consistency. That allows you to open up to the actual real high-touch communication that actually matters. And that's what customers really, really want. They don't want to play phone tag about scheduling. They want that conveniently and at speed. But they do want high-touch, high-value information coming from you personally. So here's the bottom line. The exterior maintenance market is going to explode, nearly $1 trillion by the end of the decade. More work is available than ever before. So your constraint's not going to be demand, it's going to be capacity. And right now that capacity is often spent on admin work instead of revenue generating work. You're keeping the most valuable people out of the field, sitting in trucks or in offices doing tasks that should take minutes. Somehow they end up consuming hours, and that means that the contractors that are winning aren't necessarily the ones with the best crews or the best jobs or the lowest prices. They're the ones who have eliminated the friction. That's the friction between the inquiry and the invoice for a completed job. They respond faster, they look more professional, they get paid quicker, and not because they're doing anything differently in the actual work, it's because they're not buried in paperwork. And then they can take on more without burning out their team. I'm not advocating technology for technology's sake. We've already heard that line from anybody, you know. It's about getting back to what you're actually good at and what actually is generating revenue, solving complex problems for customers and delivering quality work that's in line with the scope and the pricing. Everything else is overhead. Here's my question for you. If you saved 7 hours per week, what would you do with that time? Spend it on more jobs, better marketing, actually taking a day off? At Breasy, we're helping professionals keep those schedules full and make money easier than ever. So drop a comment and let me know what's holding you back from making this shift. Or if you're interested in what we do, visit joinbreasy.com/join to learn more about how we partner with professionals to make this entire process seamless. And I'll catch you in the next one.